Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk Dispatch with me, Ashley, the Raspy Dispatcher. I'm actually really excited to jump in the episode today. We're talking all about nutrition and specifically nutrition and shift work. I'm a graveyarder. I've worked graveyard my whole career, and I have found that, shift work and nutrition is a struggle. Eating right, especially when you're sleep patterns all crazy, is a challenge. So I'm very excited that my guest, Raina today, creator of Shift Work Nutrition, has jumped on to talk a little bit about nutrition and shift work specifically. Hi, Raina. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Hey, Ashley. Thanks for having me. This is exciting.
Yeah, no, it's totally fun. I think I found you on Instagram and I was like, nutrition, shift work. This is like, we need to talk about it more because it's definitely a challenge eating right when your schedule's all crazy.
Oh, it's so brutal. Like you said, schedule, what schedule? I don't, depending on what your shifts are, it's like, when you wake up, should you be having breakfast, dinner, lunch? What time is it? Like, it's so weird.
Exactly. I often say like the world is just different
Yeah.
for graveyarders because I'll wake up and I won't know what day of the week it is. Some big news event will happen, and I'm just confused and blindsided. Like when the pandemic happened, I was lost for like 2, 3 days. Like when that whole thing started, I was like, oh, we had the flu, like it's fine.
Right,
And then
right, right.
I actually went to, I canceled a vacation that I had during that
Oh,
time.
yeah.
And I was like, well, I'm going to be home. It's going to be a staycation now. I'm going to go to our 24-hour Winco and grab some food. And I get there and it's closed. There's already a line forming. It's like 4 a.m. And I'm like, why is it closed? Now that I'm jumping on Google, I'm like, oh, like this
Oh,
is bigger than I'm realizing just
I
because
know.
I don't catch the news the way everyone else catches it.
Yeah. The world goes by. Yeah, 100%.
So funny. So tell us a little bit about yourself, shift work nutrition, and how this all kind of started for you.
For sure. I'm a dietitian, and I've been working in private practice for about 8 years now. And my husband does shift work. So ever since we've been married, he's been doing rotating shifts of like various days and nights. And his schedule's a little bit more stable now than it was when we first got married. But I was kind of clueless to shift work at first. Like I just thought it's just another type of job. And then he kind of started having some like just things that were tough kind of the more years that he did it. And so in my practice, I started working with more clients who work shift work. And I started to hear some like common themes pop up. And so I was just kind of helping with like meal planning strategies and stuff that we used at home and meals that I like to make and packing it, what I packed in his lunch at night and all that sort of stuff. And then I started to look into the research, like, I'll see if there's any strategies in the research I can pull. And the more I looked at the research, the more I like panicked because I was like, oh my gosh, like as a dietitian, I had no idea that there were so many health implications for working shift work. And the longer you worked it, the more health concerns you could face, like chronic disease and weight gain and obesity and high blood pressure and sleep disorders. And it was just like, ah. So I felt like, why has nobody told us? Like, we've been doing this for years, and I hadn't heard anything about it. I had worked in the healthcare field. And so I kind of started looking around to see if there was anything that, like, any like shift care or shift work, like healthcare programs out there or anything like that. And I didn't see anything. There's like resources and lots of good things, but nothing about what I felt like my clients were looking for and what I felt like they needed. So I started to kind of pull together the pieces that I found out of the research about how to support your circadian rhythm and when to eat and when to fast and what types of food to have and what types of food to avoid. And I put that together. And that's what I've been working with my clients for. And so I've kind of shifted my practice now just from like kind of general weight management, general chronic disease management, really into the shift work vein because I didn't see anything out there that was helping. And I saw a lot of people working shift work and hearing the same things. When do I eat? What kinds of foods do I eat? How much should I be eating at what time? So yeah, that's kind of how it all started.
And, you know, I totally agree with you. I think when I first, because this is the first time I worked shift work when I got into the career as a dispatcher. And I think one of the first things people Google is like how to survive on shift work, how to eat on shift work. And and even if we're just talking about health and weight in general, like we're Googling for these ideas of how to live healthy, how to eat healthy. And then we're looking at them like, oh, you should eat from 8 a.m. to 5, or, you know, this is when you should do this. And you're just like, well, that doesn't relate to me.
No,
and
none of it applies.
Yeah, none of it applies. And it's really hard to find strategies out there for us weirdos who work overnight. And so I think the work you're doing is totally needed, and is amazing, you know?
Thank you. Well, and we need you guys. Like, if I call 911 at 3 a.m., like, I need you to be there on the other side of the phone. So we can't not have shift work ananymore in our society, even though I think, like, probably the best thing for your health is to not work shift work. But we need ER nurses and first responders, and we need people in, I don't know, the oil and gas industry. Like, we still need that 24-hour service in so many industries. But I think like you said, I mean, my goal is to really, like, just equip people with, like, the tools and the skills and the knowledge, so that you know what to do. Okay, on a night shift, here's what I do. I do X, Y, Z. On a day shift, here's what I do. I do this and this and this. And so even within your rotating schedule, whatever that looks like, you know what to do. So
yeah, exactly. So what is some advice you would give someone who's, like, just getting into shift work, trying to figure out, you know, what foods and, like, you know, what's kind of like the broad advice and that you would give to someone who's venturing into this line of work?
Yeah, good question. So first of all, I think it's important to know that what you feel is jet lag, essentially. And you can maybe affirm or deny if you have felt this with your night shift. You are jet lagged when you come off a set of night shifts and you're trying to get back onto the daytime routine, get into your days off. That's what your body is physically feeling. And so because of that, your clocks in your body are all turned around, and it's just hard to recover. So know that about shift work, is that it's going to feel like you've just have flown back to the States or to Canada from Germany. And so giving your body that time to rest and recover on your days off is actually very important. That first day is not the time to slam yourself with appointments and getting stuff done and meal prep. Don't do that on the first day. So that's probably one of the first things I would say is just treat it like jet lag and give your body the chance to rest and recover. And then from a nutrition standpoint, I would say my clients who put in the time with the meal planning and the meal prep have a way more successful set of shifts. But otherwise, same goes with my house, like meal planning for dinners. Like, if I don't have a plan, like, skip the dishes, like, all sorts of things can happen when we don't have that plan for your work days and for what's going to happen. So for shift work, it looks different because depending on your shifts and depending on where somebody's works, do you have access to a microwave? Can you actually have the time to take your breaks? I've been working with some dispatchers, and depending on if they're short staffed, if somebody calls in sick, like if they have to do mandatory overtime, like it just seems go nonstop.
Yeah,
and that's very really true. Tough. So take your breaks, getting that meal planning, that meal prep done on your days off so that your set of shifts is smooth and it flows and it's successful. And that's another big thing too. I could talk about so many things right now. Stop me when it's too much.
Oh no, keep going. These are great. This is great, especially for me. I'm taking notes for myself.
Oh, good. The other thing, okay, so here's another one. The other thing with shift work is that you have different clocks in your body. So you've got that main clock in your brain that tells your body what time it is. So this is why we're able to travel to different time zones and readjust, is we can flip what that clock is. You've also got a clock in your gut. And so if your brain clock and your gut clock get on different times, that's what leads to health concerns and hormone imbalances and gut issues. So some of my clients really struggle with a lot of gut issues, especially at night. So like bloating and gas and pain and cramping. That's because your gut wants to be asleep in those nighttime hours. So even though you need to be working your shift, if we're having like our lunch break or our biggest meal that we've packed, or going out to grab something to eat, like Golden Arches, McDonald's, whatever it is, if we get that stuff at like 3 a.m., for example, the gut really can't handle and digest big meals overnight. So one of my big suggestions is really to try and create a fast overnight, just as if you were sleeping. And depending on the person's work, sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. And if you're physically hungry, we can eat, absolutely. But it's really more about creating good snacks versus my biggest meal happens at 3 a.m. because that's when I get my lunch break, and that's just when I eat. That's really hard on the body. So the research shows that between midnight and 6 a.m., those are the hours that we're trying to let the body and let the gut rest and fast and still go through its like rest and restore functions that it needs to do at night.
So interesting. You know, I wouldn't even have considered that to be a thing, a challenge, a struggle. Right. You know, I do know one thing that I try to do at work is that, especially because I do work nights, at an agency that's call volume is relatively lower than my last one. Okay. So there's a lot of downtime, and there's a lot of time for me to, that walk to the fridge and you open and you're like, you're not really hungry. You're just kind of bored type of thing. Yeah. When I get that feeling, I try to drink water and then see if I'm still wanting to walk to the fridge and see what's in there type of thing. And I find that's helpful because I think most of the time, especially in shift work, we're maybe not necessarily hungry. Yeah. We're just kind of, there's a lull. There's some boredom there. We're probably more dehydrated than anything because we live off caffeine. So would you say that's
oh yeah, 100%. And I think it probably depends on the number of hours you've worked too. Is that the brain can, I don't know, it can kind of only function for so long. Like for me, by the time I hit like the 3 to 5 p.m. hours, like I should not be doing really good work then, because if I've been doing stuff all day, it's just like I can't string a good sentence together at that point. So it just depends on like how long you've been working, and then your brain is looking for something else or looking for a rest, or sometimes that's when we just start scrolling through. So I catch myself doing this. I just start scrolling through social media like mindlessly, just because I think my brain needs a break. So sometimes that's where the boredom eating comes in too, is that it's just, we've worked hard for a long period of time, and now that we have a lull, we're looking for some sort of entertainment or some sort of maybe dopamine hit. And eating foods, especially like the good stuff, like the cookies or chips or whatever we can get our hands on, especially at night. The craving for carbohydrates, we can typically expect that to be higher at night because fatigue levels can be higher. And when we're tired, the brain's going to drive you to have some of those really quick energy foods, things that will just, that sugar will hit your brain super fast. And it's going to give you an energy boost and B, a dopamine hit. So.
Okay. And when I think about dispatch nutrition and being healthy and things like that, I also feel like, and I don't know if this is necessarily relates specifically, but I feel like it does, just the sedentary lifestyle that we have in a dispatch center and how that relates to the nutrition and, how they play into each other.
Yeah, I mean, and like here I am at my desk all day. This is what I'm doing too, just talking with people. I'm thankfully not an emergency situation, but so totally. When, especially again, like for some of the clients I've worked with, they really have a hard time getting away from their desk, and so sometimes their strategy is they have finger foods. It's basically like they've built balanced meals out of snack type foods. So that they've got some veggies, they've got some like kind of snack style proteins, they've got some snack style like crackers or pitas or whatever it is that they've kind of got involved in their meal. And so if that's the case, if you're in like a busy call center, like maybe you said your previous job was, is that sometimes it's about setting yourself up with strategies so that you can actually fuel your body and you're not going through the majority of your shift having not really eaten anything.
Yeah.
So that's one factor about just kind of being tied to the desk. The other factor is that if the job is quite sedentary, we just know we don't have the same calorie expenditure as we do with like a physically active job.
Yeah.
And so from that perspective, then it's really about identifying how much does my body actually need when I'm at work. And usually that's a calculation we can do based on your age, your gender, your height, your weight, and to figure out what that baseline calorie level should be. And then we can kind of help figure out what does that actually translate then in terms of food. How much of each food group, what portion sizes should that look like? And so we're really trying to set up for, just depending on the person's goal, if they want to gain weight, if they want to maintain their weight, if they want to lose weight, what is that calorie level, and what should that look like over a set of shifts?
Okay.
So the more active you are, obviously the more that we need, but that's an important part to do, because if we say we've come from like a job that was previously very active, and now we transition into a job that's still the same sedentary level. If we just eat the same, we're obviously going to potentially see a shift in our weight, because the body, we're just not burning that much that we used to. The other thing with shift work that can really have an impact on our metabolism too is how you're sleeping. And this is something really interesting that the research shows, is that if you get less than 6 hours of sleep consecutively, like day or night, you're going to be in a state called sleep restriction. And that can drop our metabolism, like chronically, if that happens for a long, long time, that can drop our metabolism by up to 8%. So for me, I did that calculation. So for me, if the only thing that changed was that I just got less than 6 hours of sleep a night for a long time, that could be a 12-pound gain in a year. And that would be the only thing different. I could eat the same, I could exercise the same or whatever. So that's the other component too, is being able to, are we supporting your sleep really well? And is your activity level, is a calorie intake appropriate for your activity level?
Definitely. And so like for me, I have a thyroidectomy, so I don't have a thyroid, so I take levothyroid. So my metabolism is like non-existent. Like I don't even believe it's literally there. And so, you know, I try to be really conscious. You know, I used to play sports in college. We used to work out like 4 times a day. And then I graduated and no longer have the time nor the commitment level to being an athlete that way. And then switching to a job where I'm behind a desk all day. And, you know, the metabolism, like all those things when you're younger, you don't think about as much because, you know, you're young, you're invincible, and your metabolism's amazing. But now as you get older, all those things matter. And like the 6 hour sleeps, I'm definitely guilty of, for example, my vacation, I get off work at 6 a.m. and usually that's my first day of my vacation when I have it, right? And my partner's always like, well, do you want to come home and sleep and we can catch a late flight, or do you want me to book an early flight? I'm like, book an early flight. I'm already up. You know, I can sleep on the plane. You know, like why waste a day? But then I do feel it usually takes me a couple of days of vacation to kind of get fully back, charged up, and being able to do things. But I'm also guilty of going, I just need a 4-hour nap. You know, I could turn around and go, and you know, so I'm definitely, and I think we all, especially graveyarders, anyone who works shift work, are like, I just need a quick little snooze and then I can get out there. But I just didn't realize, like, you know, those numbers. I'm terrible at math, so that's probably I just probably avoided the calculation. But yeah, no, less than 6 being, I mean, and that's a good goal for us to focus on, right? If I can just schedule my time to hit those 6 hours, long-term wise, long game, I'm going to be so much happier in my shift work experience for that year, just by trying to hit that one thing. That's a small change we can all make.
Yes, totally. And I think you're right with that small change piece of it. And that can go a long way to just minimizing the brain fog and the zombie like feeling you can feel like those first few days of vacation. And I'm so guilty of that. Like sometimes I'm like watching my clock to the minute to like, you know, at the 6 hour mark, I'm like waking my husband up. I'm like, let's go. We got this. Like, you know, and so I think from the family side of it and like talking to like the spouses and the families and that sort of thing, there's things that we can do to help support them, because my husband is, I think, one of the lucky ones that he can sleep during the day pretty good. But then he could sleep all day and then get up at like 4 p.m. or 6 p.m. and then then he's up all night again. And so that's a hard transition on your days off.
Yeah,
to kind of get back to, and your family wants you there. They're like, good, you're off. Okay, well, let's do something together. And yet you poor guys are just so turned around. So I think from a family perspective, I know that is that, okay, I want to give him at least 6 hours, but then it can actually help him reset quicker if he doesn't get like a full 8 hours after that shift too. So it depends on how good people can sleep, I think.
Yeah. It's because even after shift work, and you know, I don't have kids. I don't, you know, it's just me and my partner. But I've talked to even some of my officers, and they're like, yeah, I get home and I take the first shift, and you know, I let my wife sleep in, and I'm up with these kids after working a 12-hour shift until they get up, and then they tap them out, and now they're going, and then they still have work, you know. So like life doesn't stop when you clock out. So finding a way to make it all work and everyone be happy and healthy, and it's certainly challenging.
Yeah, there's about 17 balls in the air as you're just trying desperately not to drop something important. I know, and that's reality. And I really like, research is nice, and the research is good, and it's important, and I think it's powerful for us to be able to connect to that stuff. But at the end of the day, like, I've had clients who are like, Raina, that's nice, it'll just never happen. And I think that's important too, is because nutrition is not about perfection. It's just about trying to be as consistent as we can with the goals that we're working on. Because my clients who do things perfectly, like they'll execute things like to the T, like beautiful meal plans or whatever. And then I've got clients who do it about 80% of the way, and the results between the two are not that significantly different, but the people who do it 80% of the time are happier.
Yeah.
and they're having the treats, and then they're having the stuff, and it feels like there's a little bit more flexibility for life. So, so shift work, you have to be able to bend the rules, and you have to be able to have flexibility. And it's good to know the stuff that, like you said, you know what you're aiming for. I'm aiming for 6 hours of sleep. I'm not going to always hit that. Some nights I'm just like, sometimes I just have a really bad sleep, and I don't even work shift work, and I only get 3 or 4 hours, whatever. I feel gross the next day. I for sure feel that brain fog, and I feel the fatigue, and I crave carbs and all this stuff. And so if you actually get enough sleep, a lot of our cravings and a lot of our energy and our mental clarity, actually, that alone can change all of that.
Definitely.
So, yeah.
And like one thing you said is consistency over perfection.
Yeah.
I think that's major. And especially people who are considering working with you, and you know, that's the goal, right? To get all these resources and help out to folks, especially specific companies and people who are focusing on shift work and things that are specific to the community that I work in. But there's also a vulnerability level when we're talking about nutrition, because it usually has to do with, you know, weight and concerns. So hearing, you know, you say things like, you know, consistency over perfection, allowing that flexibility for life, and kind of living in a gray area, because that is kind of what dispatching is. You're just constantly, it's not black and white. We're just living in all these shades of gray, trying to help folks, trying to do our best. And when we're connecting that with nutrition and lifestyle and living healthy, in shift work and as a dispatcher, I think it just like it makes me want to interact with you more and learn more from you and allow myself to be vulnerable with you with my own, challenges. And I think that's important for folks who are hopefully going to hit you up for more info because, I just think it's a great way to look at life, nutrition, health, in shift work.
Yeah. Well, and I appreciate you saying that because I 100% know that as soon as sometimes we start to talk about food and we start to talk about nutrition and our habits and why we're doing what we're doing, that is vulnerable because it's not like we all don't know. I think we all know, like veggies, we should eat more veggies and we should eat less Twinkies or whatever, whatever it is. So it's not that we don't have that knowledge, I think, as a society. And obviously everybody's background and their income level, and there's so many factors that come in, and that's why I think there can't be like this is the only way you could only eat organic and non-GMO and you have to shop at this store only. And I don't think that's the way it should be because like everybody's background is different. But I would just echo what you're saying is that it can feel very vulnerable to share the things that you're doing that maybe I know I shouldn't be doing this. It's like when I food journal. I don't love food journaling, but every once in a while I'll do it. It's like, man, I don't eat those M&Ms. I have to write them down, and I don't want to write them down to say that I did it. And so sometimes having somebody to hold you accountable to your goals is very powerful, and we need that. And other times it's like, you feel like you're just opening up the journal to your life and saying, well, here it is. So yeah, I would say a lot of my clients before they start working with me, they have like a purge weekend or something, and then we jump on a call on Monday, and you don't have to do that. It's like we're dietitians are people too, and just because the word die is in our name, we're not the food police, we're not here to torture. Like we really just want you to have the best career you can. If this is a job you love, if you're excited about getting into this career, and like you actually providing this resource for people who are looking at starting a career in dispatch and kind of giving the skills and the tools and like connections. I think that's awesome because I've seen the toll that shift work can take over the years. And I want people to have a really good, long, successful career so they don't feel like they have to choose between a job they love and their health. But I actually see people do that often, is that eventually it's like, I really like my job, but my health wins out. And that's sad, I think.
Yeah, especially if you find something you love doing, and that's the reason you have to. I'm actually working on a blog for another former dispatcher who asked me to write one, and I'm talking about the transition out of dispatch. And there's really two paths, right? There's voluntary and involuntary, and we don't want our paths to be involuntary. Sometimes they're unavoidable. You take a bad call you can't bounce back from. It's just no longer for you. But if it's something like our health that we could have done something to make our career last longer, like we want to own that. We want to be able to. I want to help people find those resources so we can create avenues to have longer, healthier careers. And when you do throw in the towel, you feel like you're 25 because you worked with shift work nutrition and you're like amazing. You're just ready to keep rolling on to your next adventure.
Yeah, really. All those kale salads will pay off.
Hey, kale, my partner she does make a kale salad, and I was not all for kale. It's super basic. It's a Caesar kale salad, my favorite salad in the world. I don't know. It's so basic, but it's so good. It's so good.
Yeah, Caesar dressing on pretty much anything is so good, but I do like a good Caesar kale salad. Well, yeah, and obviously that's the goal. I mean, I wish this was like flipping a light switch. It's like, shift work is now super easy and it's amazing. No, I think it's always going to be hard, but I think you can change how your shifts feel by getting the meal timing right, by eating like the proper balance and the right foods at the right times, and just fueling your body to its needs. And then when I've done that with my clients, then they say that the energy levels improve, and then they say that sleep is starting to improve. Again, it's not a flip a switch. It's like, oh, I ate right and then my sleep totally changed. No, it's you, like I said, you have to be consistent with the stuff, and then slowly and steadily we feel better over time. And what is interesting is that when my clients they're making the changes, we're working through the program, they're feeling good, and like, yeah, I think it's working. And then they go and have maybe like a weekend or a day or a vacation. They go down to Vegas, whatever it is, take a holiday and just kind of go back to like, oh, I'm taking a break and just enjoy life. And then they come back to me like, oh man, I don't feel so good. So I think that's kind of the eye-opening moment, is that when you fall off the wagon, so to speak, it's actually a really powerful experience. And I think everybody should have that experience of feeling like they're off track, because what it does is it solidifies the things that you're working on. It's like, this is why this is important to me, because I didn't realize how bloated I felt, or I didn't realize how like brain foggy I felt, or I didn't realize I felt like that much of a zombie on night shifts, because it just kind of got a little bit progressively better. And then when I went back to what I was doing before, like, whoa, that doesn't feel very good.
Yeah.
So that's a common experience.
Yeah, no, I've experienced that as well. And I mean, I'm in the process of allowing myself to just be consistent. So I used to play basketball. So I'm used to, like, in my head going 120%. You know, I got to lift, I got to do cardio, I got to do a full set or it doesn't count. And then I'm like, well, I'm 32 now. I'm no longer 18. You know, I'm no longer chasing a basketball scholarship. Like, I have just the only thing I've been working on like the last couple months is like just trying to do 30 minutes of cardio a day. Like, it doesn't have to be extreme, doesn't have to be crazy, don't got to go run 400 miles, just get up consistently 30 minutes, allowing my rest days, but just a 30-minute something. And that being it. So I think when we talk about nutrition and we just talk about living healthy on shift work, is that we don't always have to do the most. We can allow ourselves to just do our bare minimums and hit those 30-minute goals, and we're going to feel better over time.
Well, and I think that's so important, because life really goes through ups and downs. And so to expect ourselves to be able to maintain the same standard, even over the course of a year or a few months, that's quite hard to live up to. And that's where I think people feel like they fail, because life happens. And so a family member gets sick, or our job changes, or now we're all of a sudden selling our house and we're moving. And it's like, well, I'm falling off the wagon because my kitchen is literally packed up, so I can't meal prep like I used to. So I think if we give ourselves that grace, life is going to happen, and what you can fairly execute in different seasons of life is going to be different. And I think that and momentum or motivation, I talk to my clients a lot about motivation. Like, I just don't feel motivated. And that's actually really normal, is that motivation will go up and down. That sometimes you're going to be motivated by short-term goals. Like, I'm training for a half marathon right now, so I'm motivated by that end date. Like, shoot, I got to be able to run those miles before I'm going to hurt something, because I'm not 20 anymore. So it makes a difference. I got to train. So short-term motivation is good, but also that long-term motivation. Why is this important to you? What is it about your health that you want to change? Because what you do now will affect where you are 20 years from now and 30 years from now. So it's, we're not young and invincible like we were at 18.
We are not. My best friend just got me to join in on a co-ed basketball league, and they're like, at first they were like 6 people. I was like, 6 people? We gonna need some more subs. We're not. You know what? I'm actually injured. I have to go. Like, we don't need more than 6. Thankfully, we do have more than 6, but it did get me thinking. Right when I committed to it, I was like, oh, thankfully, I've been already working out
Yeah.
again consistently,
Yeah.
right? So I'm
Mm-hmm.
already, I mean, I'm still gonna RIP that first game because it's just different, but
Mm-hmm.
at least I know that I'm in a mental mindset to, you know, my short-term goal has shifted a little bit
Yeah.
with the knowledge that I have to the start date for this co-ed league, and I've already been working out. So now my motivation has changed a little bit from yesterday to today because I just joined this league, you know, yesterday.
Totally.
So
Oh,
so now
totally.
my short-term motivation, you know, after we jump off, I'm like, oh, I gotta go get my workout in.
Yeah.
Not only because I want to be consistent, but I have this goal because I have this game coming up that
Yeah.
it's out of nowhere now that we have to
Yes.
prepare for. So
Well, that's exactly it. Is there's external accountability of you now needing to show up for somebody else.
yeah.
So that's it. Signing up for something, I still think is one of the most like powerful motivators to
Yeah, no,
get things done.
seriously.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
that's exciting.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I did want to talk a little bit about the 12-week challenge that you offer
Mm-hmm.
on
Mm-hmm.
your site and what that's all about.
Yeah. So this was the program that I started to run with my clients, just like one-on-one. So if somebody came to me and they work shift work and kind of we chat about like where they found the tough spots to be and what their challenges were, and then where their goals are, we kind of started to a little bit evolved into this. We kind of started to roll it out into kind of a little program over 3 months. And over those 3 months, I would kind of walk them through these steps. Okay, first we need to figure out your nutrition prescription. So like we're talking about, how much does your body actually need? How much do we need to eat over the course of a day? And then we talk about your meal timing schedule. And then from there, it would roll into all the really elements that help support your circadian rhythm, strategies to help support sleep, strategies to help support stress. And over those 12 weeks, I would use that time to build out that skill set and that toolkit for my clients to have, so that they could like feel confident now, knowing how to handle their shifts, knowing how to handle their days off, knowing what the best time for them was to exercise, how to build a good bedtime routine. Like we kind of started to pull all of those pieces together. And now that's something that I'm doing consistently. And for this fall, we're going to be running it in a group format for the first time, because like we do shift work in our house. And so I've got my ideas and my strategies and that sort of thing. But every time I talk to my clients, I'm like, oh, that's a really good idea. I should do that too. Or, oh yeah, okay, we'll share that recipe or whatever. And I think I hear the same things over and over, but I've also heard people say like, oh, I didn't realize that. I thought I was the only one who felt that way, or I just need to buck up and make it through my nights or something like that. But I actually think that in that group setting, it provides that accountability. Like you got to show up for other people. And so people always show up for me, which is awesome. But then there's also going to be that community and that support aspect to be able to bounce ideas off of each other and to just have people who say, I get it. I get what you're feeling. And I think that's really important because we've gone through a time where we've lost a lot of that connection. And so I love the virtual world that going through COVID and the pandemic has opened. And yet at the same time, I feel like I'm longing for more of that connection that I think has been lost a bit. So that's what the 12-week program is going to be about. It's really about going through each one of the things I work on with my clients step by step, like the caffeine timing and dosing, when to have caffeine, when to not have it, how much to have, because more is just the answer, right?
Yes, always, definitely.
100%. But also so it's going to be like both like teaching the concepts in a group and then saying, here's what it's going to look like for you individually to go home and do this now and to implement it in. So I'm really excited about that, and just being able to be able to support people in that format. And yeah, I think it's gonna be super fun.
Yeah, it sounds very exciting. I think when we talk about group format and community building and things like that in regards to shift work and dispatchers, I think a lot of us were looking for community and we're looking for people who get it, right? So, you know, I can tell someone outside of my workspace the job that I do, and they're just like, that's wild. They like there's a disconnect.
Oh yeah.
And when I'm talking to a friend who's, let's just say they're all into the health and fitness, and they're, you should do this, and that, and it's like, that all sounds great, but that's just not the world that I live in because of the way my job is. So I think going step by step with people, helping them figure out navigating this world of shift work, and then putting them in spaces to connect with other people, like that's totally my vibe. That's, RASA Dispatch, Let's Talk Dispatch. Let's all share our tool belts, let's all help each other. I think we can learn so much from just simply connecting. I learned so much just from working with a different dispatcher and hearing the way they ask a question on a call. And so I can only imagine running this in the group format that you're planning to run it in, like how much gems you guys are going to get and connections. And I think it's going to be wonderful.
Well, and like I said, I learn something probably every time I talk with somebody, because I think we all just need ideas, right? Like, what should I meal prep for breakfast? What should I do this? And so I've got a stash and I've got an arsenal that I always share with people. But then somebody says, well, actually do this. I'm like, that's a genius idea. I didn't even think of that. Then I've got something else that I can do in our house. And so, I'm excited for that aspect of it. Because it's shift work, obviously everything is going to be recorded, and then you can access it after the fact if you need to, if you're going to be sleeping or if you're going to be working or whatever. As you know, it's really hard to commit to something like Tuesday at 7 every week. You can't. So it's all going to be, everything's going to be recorded. So we'll be done live, recorded. Get it at your pace when you need to. So
that's amazing. That's so cool. What should someone expect when reaching out to you, trying to figure out if they want to work with you? Like, what does that process look like for you guys?
So a couple of things. One, it's just always about what are your goals, right? And so first of all, where are your challenges, and then what are your goals? And am I the right person to bridge that, right? And do I have the kind of the school or the skills and the tools, like, is that within my scope of practice? So as a dietitian, I've definitely got certain skills, but for some things, I'm like, oh man, I think we might actually need somebody else. I think you should maybe start here. And so sometimes that's part of the process, just having that initial conversation and really understanding what it is. Just based on my own like regulatory body and my regulations, that sort of thing, I can only do individual one-on-one sessions with people who live within a certain area. So I'm up in Canada, and so I have my province regulatory bodies, and so I have to kind of like adhere to rules and guidelines that way for my client safety and protection, and then for my own safety and protection too. So sometimes there's stipulations like that, and that's where the group setting can actually open up a few more doors for us that way to be able to help more people, because that's different than just one-on-one counseling and that individualized piece of it. So that part I'm really excited and looking forward to. But so it's usually it's for the fall program, it's going to be an intake and orientation, and everything is going to be accessible online, like including the meal plans and the lessons, and there's videos and modules and all and resources and all sorts of things like that to access. So did that answer the question?
Yeah, no, totally. Okay. Yeah, no, you're perfect. Yeah, definitely answered the question. And so when they do reach out, they go to your website, shit.work.dietitian.com. Is there like an intake form, email? Like, what's the best way for them to connect with you? To figure out if it's a good fit.
So you can go to my website, Shit.work.dietitian.com, and then I've got a little bit of background information about myself and the 12-week challenge there. I've got a wait list on there. If somebody says, hey, I'm just interested and want to like be on the list, contact me when it's time to launch and whatever. You can drop your name in for that. Or you can just send me an email. If you just have questions, info@Shit.work.dietitian.com, and I can shoot you back an email and we can just chat, or set up one of those initial phone calls. So I just do like a quick 15-minute phone call just to touch base and kind of go through that process. What's the struggles? Where do you want to go? What are your goals? Am I the right fit? And is this going to be something that can help you? So that's kind of that initial process. I've got a snack resource on my website for night shifts. You can always go on and grab that. Or follow me on Instagram at Shit.work.dietitian. So
awesome. That's where I found you.
Yay!
Well, and for everyone who's listening, I'm going to include, all the links, all the info in the, I always never know what the info section of the video. So you guys don't have to be, racing to write all this down. It'll all be there for you guys to access. So you can reach out to Raina and Shit.work Nutrition. But I just want to thank you for jumping on and being willing to connect and share all these great gems and info with us. I know I learned a lot just from this little interaction, this little segment. So I can only imagine, what more people can learn from you and shift work and living a healthier life doing this necessary job.
Well, thanks, Ashley. I mean, it's and anybody within the first responder community or like our health services or whatever, like the working around the clock, the more I look for it, the more I see it. There's aviation industry or the grocery stores that are magically restocked overnight. It's just people who work shift work, I think, are not seen a lot, and yet they are so needed. We would be in dire straits if people weren't working overnight. So
true. So
appreciate you.
Thank you. Well, again, Raina, thank you so much for joining us today. I am going to kick you out for a short minute, and I'll get right back with you, okay?
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, everybody, that was another episode here on Let's Talk Dispatch. Raina, thank you so much again for coming out and talking with me today all about nutrition and shift work. It is super important for us to be healthy in this career so we can do it and continue to help people for as long as we possibly can. If you're interested in coming on Let's Talk Dispatch, feel free to head over to theraspidispatcher.com and pick a date and time that works for you. And I'll be happy to jump on here and talk to you. I really want to talk to current, former, and any companies who are working with dispatchers or the first responder community in general. Of course, follow us on Instagram, like us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube. And until next time, stay raspy, everybody.